When I give the plaques out to you. You're going to listen to the pledge. No, just take them. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here for this meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Carmel. As always, before we get started, we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. So would everybody please rise? And Councilman Schneider, would you lead us tonight?
It's my honor. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
and please remain standing for a moment of silence and reflect upon the sacrifices that our community's first responders make through our police departments, our fire departments, our EMT corps, as well as the services that are being provided by our military and armed forces, and the sacrifices that all their families make for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah. Well, it's a little too late because we can't do the, All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here for this meeting with the Town Board of the Town of Carmel. Today's date is Wednesday, December 18th, 2019, and tonight's meeting is a Town Board voting meeting. But prior to coming out here for the public voting meeting, we did meet in executive session at 6:15 p.m. to discuss the garbage district contractual issue. All board members are present with us this evening, as is Ann Spofford, our town clerk, and all the way down to my left is Greg Fulchetti, and you're probably wondering why I'm standing, right? I'm usually sitting down, but so tonight what I'll be doing first is presenting plaques to our retiring councilman, Councilman Schneider, and Councilman Lupinacci, who served on the town board for the past 8 years as councilman. John previously served prior to joining the town board on the zoning board of appeals. So John's been providing public service to the town for how many years were you on the zoning board for, John? 7 years. Okay, so for 15 years, John was a public servant in the town of Carmel, and he is retiring from that role, and so is Councilman Schneider after 8 years. So Jonathan and John, I want to publicly thank you for the 8 years of service as councilman on the Carmel Town Board. Your dedication and commitment to the town of Carmel was certainly recognized all those years. The 8 years, 2 terms is a long term to serve, and you guys served with honor and distinction during those 8 years, and the community, the town of Carmel, appreciates your dedication and service to the town of Carmel. So we do appreciate that, and Godspeed and good luck with your future endeavors, whatever you decide to do, after December 31st, because you're still on board until December 31st. But after that, whatever you do in your future, good luck with that, and Godspeed and best of luck. But I do have 2 plaques that I need.
Thank you.
So
It's
gentlemen,
been a lot of fun.
If you join me up at the podium, I have your plaques. This is customary. We do this. Frank Lombardi has to give us his plaque back, though. All right. We gave him his plaque 2 years ago, and he still has it. No, you can keep it, Frank. And his name plaque. He gave us his name plaque back, so we don't have to buy a new one of those. So, hang on, guys. Something I didn't need 8 years ago, I need now. Huh? It's pretty big, I know. Still can't see it. Okay, so we're going to present Councilman Lupinacci's plaque to him first. John? So this is presented to you, John. The town of Carmel acknowledges with deep gratitude John D. Lupinacci for your 8 years of dedicated public service as town councilman, January 1st, 2012 through December 31st, 2019. Congratulations. Thank you. Stay up here. Stay here. Okay, Councilman Schneider. Let's go over this way a little bit. All right. The town of Carmel acknowledges with deep gratitude Jonathan Schneider for your 8 years of dedicated public service as town councilman, January 1st, 2012 through December 31st, 2019. Congratulations, John. Thank you. Yeah. Flag in the background? What's that little thing on the mouth? Is it a bubble? Got it?
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Best of luck.
After you.
Okay.
Always a pleasure.
I'm not going anywhere.
I appreciate it. I'll still see you all the time. Thank you for everything.
You got your glasses?
Yeah. I gotta start wearing them on my neck.
No, to me, just keep it.
Oh, thank you. How come it doesn't say police commissioner? Water commissioner.
Okay, so this is John and Jonathan's final meeting of the year because after tonight, where the board won't be publicly meeting anymore until January 2nd. January 2nd, 2020 is going to be our organizational meeting where we'll be back here after tonight. So, once again, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's meeting is a town board voting meeting. There are, I think, 19 resolutions. 19 resolutions for tonight, and we're going to start. The first item is to accept town board minutes of November 20th and December 4th, 11th of 2019. I need a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Councilwoman McDonough, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, resolution number 1 is a resolution making a probationary appointment of police officer for the town of Carmel Police Department. Now, let me just state, when we appoint probationary police officers, normally they're here with us. The reason that they're not here is because the resolutions that we're going to be reading is with an effective date of January 2nd. So they're actually not starting until January 2nd. That's when they're going to be sworn in here. So they'll be here with their families on January 2nd. The reason they're not here tonight is because the chief requested that we appoint them tonight with an effective date of the 2nd, because these two new officers are going to be starting the police academy on January 6th. So they needed to process their paperwork and get everything in order for them for the 6th. So that's why they're not here. Okay, resolution number 1, Councilman Schneider, would you read that, please?
Resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of the town of Carmel Police Department, hereby appoints Vincent DeSantola to the position of police officer in the town of Carmel Police Department, effective January 2nd, 2020, on a probationary basis at an annual salary of $46,939, subject to the provisions of civil service law and the civil service rules and regulations. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, offered by Councilman Schneider, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough and Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli? Yes. Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, second resolution is also a resolution making a probationary appointment of police officer for the town of Carmel Police Department. Councilwoman McDonough, would you read 2, please?
So resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of the town of Carmel Police Department, hereby appoints Arthur Klaskowski
Klaskowski.
to the position of police officer in the town of Carmel Police Department, effective January 2nd, 2020, on a probationary basis at an annual salary of $46,939, subject to the provisions of civil service law and the civil service rules and regulations. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 3, is a promotion to lieutenant of the town of Carmel Police Department, and he'll be here, Lieutenant Kunz will be here on January 2nd to be officially sworn in as well. So resolution number 3 is making a probationary appointment of lieutenant in the town of Carmel Police Department. Councilman Lupinacci, would you read 3?
Resolved that the town board of town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of the police department, hereby appoints Sergeant Stephen Kunz to the position of lieutenant effective January 2nd, 2020, on a promotional probationary basis, subject to the provisions of civil service law and the civil service rules and regulations. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes, with pleasure.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, with pleasure and well-deserved. Okay, next resolution, number 4, is a resolution authorizing budget modifications for a period ending 11/30/19, and it's number 2019/5. Councilman Borelli, would you read 4, please?
Whereas the town comptroller has reviewed the proposed budget modifications for the period ending November 30th, 2019 with the town board, which are detailed and explained on the attached budget revision schedule 2019/05. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel hereby authorizes and ratifies the budget modifications/revisions for the period ending November 30th, 2019, as shown itemized on the schedule 2019/5, attached hereto, incorporated herein, and made a part hereof. I offer the resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough and Councilman Schneider. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next resolution, number 5, is a resolution authorizing entry into advance payment agreement with the New York State DOT. Councilman Schneider, would you read 5?
Whereas the New York State Department of Transportation has filed acquisition maps for the condemnation or acquisition of portions of 2 parcels owned by the town of Carmel, which are both located on New York State Route 6N in Mahopac, and whereas New York State DOT has offered the sum of $6,725 to be paid to the town of Carmel for advance compensation in connection with these acquisitions, now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel hereby authorizes entry into the advance payment agreement for initial acceptance of the sum of $6,725 as compensation for said acquisitions, subject to the option of the town board to claim additional future compensation, and be it further resolved that Town Supervisor Kenneth Schmidt is hereby authorized to execute said advance payment agreement for said acquisitions, said agreement to be in form of substance as is on file in the office of the Town Supervisor. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 6, is a resolution accepting a proposal for the purchase of police cameras. Councilwoman McDonough, would you read 6, please?
Yes, resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel, upon the recommendation and request of Chief of Police Michael Kazari, authorizes the purchase of 3 license plate recognition cameras and appurtenances from Digital Surveillance Solutions, Buffalo, New York, at a cost not to exceed $5,761.80 under New York State Contract Number PT 68787. And be it further resolved, the Town Supervisor Kenneth Schmidt is hereby authorized to execute any and all documentation that reasonably necessary to effectuate this authorization. And be it further resolved, the Town Comptroller Marion Maxwell is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget transfers or modifications required to fund the cost of this authorization. I offer this resolution as read.
Seconded.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci and Councilman Schneider. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 7, is a resolution authorizing attendance to training seminars. Councilman Lupinacci, would you read 7?
Resolved that the Town Board of Town of Carmel hereby authorizes Town of Carmel Assistant Building Inspector Edward Spadardo to attend required training seminars offered by the State of New York in Dutchess County, New York, on March 3rd through March 5th, 2020, May 12th through May 14th, 2020, and June 9th through June 11th, 2020. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of Town of Carmel authorizes payment of reasonable and necessary expenses incurred in connection therewith upon audit. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 8, is a resolution accepting a proposal for the purchase of diagnostic software for the Town of Carmel Highway Department. Councilman Borelli, would you read 8, please?
Resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel, upon the recommendation and request of Town of Carmel Highway Superintendent Michael Simone, hereby authorizes the purchase of diagnostic software for for Town of Carmel highway vehicles, Gabrielli Truck Sales, Bronx, New York, at a cost not to exceed $6,999.99. In accordance with the invoice dated August 28, 2019, be it further resolved that Town Supervisor Kenneth Schmidt is hereby authorized to execute any and all documentation reasonably necessary to effectuate this authorization. And be it further resolved that Town Comptroller Mary Ann Maxwell is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget transfers or modifications required to fund the cost of this authorization. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next resolution, resolution number 9 is a resolution authorizing advertising for bids for sewer jetting for Carmel Sewer Districts 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Councilman Schneider, would you read 9, please?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of the various sewer districts within the Town of Carmel, and pursuant to the request of Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., hereby authorizes Town Clerk Ann Spofford to advertise for bids for institution of a sewer jetting program within the Carmel Sewer Districts number 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7 collection systems, and be it further resolved that the town engineer is to furnish detailed specifications for the above to the town clerk to be used in conjunction with the town's general bid conditions and specifications. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 10, is a resolution accepting a proposal for aerial mapping for Carmel Water District Number 2. Councilwoman McDonough, would you read 10, please?
To resolve that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as Commissioners of Carmel Water District Number 2, and upon the recommendation and request of Town of Carmel Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., authorizes the acceptance of the proposal of Axis Geospatial Eastern Maryland for aerial mapping services to be performed in connection with the Carmel Water District Number 2 distribution system upgrades project at a cost not to exceed $36,630 in accordance with the proposal dated November 25th, 2019. And be it further resolved, the Town Supervisor Kenneth Schmidt is hereby authorized to execute any and all documentation reasonably necessary to effectuate this authorization. And be it further resolved, the Town Comptroller Mary Ann Maxwell is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget transfers or modifications required to fund the cost of this authorization. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. Councilman Schneider, roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 11, is a resolution authorizing payment for repairs. Councilman Lupinacci, would you read 11, please?
Resolved that the Town Board of Town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of the various water and sewer districts of the Town of Carmel, and upon the recommendation of Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, hereby authorizes the following payments for repairs performed within the referenced district. There's 3 columns. I'll mention the vendor name, the service rendered, and then the dollar amount. Cook Excavation, Carmel, New York. Carmel Water District Number 2 hydrant installation, invoice date November 1st, 2019, for $10,728. Cook Excavation, Excavating, Inc., Carmel, New York. Carmel Water District Number 9 valve repair, invoice November 22nd, 2019, amount $7,063.76. Third item is Suco Fuel, Mahopac, New York. Carmel Sewer District Number 2 boiler repair, invoice November 13th, 2019, for amount of $5,865. Fourth item, B&J Plumbing, Mahopac, New York. Carmel Water District Number 5 booster station control panel repair, invoice date is November 18th, 2019. The amount is $8,829.23. Last item is B&J Plumbing, Mahopac, New York, Carmel Water Districts 1, 8, 10, 13, for Zebra Mussel Inspection Service. Invoice date is November 21st, 2019, for $11,352.58. Be it further resolved that Town Comptroller Mary Ann Maxwell is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget revisions and proportionate budget allocations to the respective districts referenced herein to affect payment for the aforesaid repair authorization. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Okay, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Let me just explain the last invoice from B&J, and John mentioned zebra mussels. Zebra mussels are an invasive species that have taken over Lake Mayapack, and they get into the intakes for our water district. They get in them and they clog the intakes, zebra mussels. They attach themselves to it. So at least annually, and I think we did it twice one year, we have to hire divers to go in Lake Mayapack and clean out the intake screens for the water districts. And it's $11,352 for that. And that's how bad the zebra mussel issue is in Lake Mahopac. I think the water rats, the muskrats, are doing a job on them, but it's going to take them a while to eat them all, because that's what muskrats eat. Water rats love zebra mussels, but there's so many of them, and there's not enough water rats. And it's just eventually they're going to, perhaps, I hope, catch up to them, and maybe in 2 or 3 years, the zebra mussel issue will be gone in Lake Mayapack. We're hoping, but I don't know if that's going to be the case, because there's so many of them. But
Then the water rat would be the size of a dog, and we'll have other issues.
yeah.
Well,
That-
water rats
they
also
will have
like
bigger
to
issues.
eat through the
Yeah,
wires on the
so-
bottom of a boat.
So that's the issue with the zebra mussels. They're in Lake Mayapack now, and not a lot we can do about it until hopefully they're gone one year. All right, next resolution, number 12, is a resolution authorizing advertise for bids for dam rehabilitation projects, and this is for the Lake Cassie Park District and the Lake Tea Kettle Park District. Councilman Borelli, would you read 12, please?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of both Lake Cassie Park District and Lake Tea Kettle Park District, pursuant to the request of Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, hereby authorizes Town Clerk Ann Spofford to advertise for bids for dam rehabilitation, projects and services for Lake Cassie Dam and Upper Lake Tea Kettle Dam and Lower Lake Tea Kettle Dam, rehabilitation and repair. Be it further resolved that the town engineers to furnish detailed specifications for the above to the town clerk to be used in conjunction with the town's general bid conditions and specifications. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 13, is a resolution waiving the notice of requirement in Section 64 of the New York State Alcohol Beverage Control Law with respect to a liquor license for Patlage LLC DBA Titan Steakhouse, 947 South Lake Boulevard, 3A, Mahopac, New York. I pretty much read the whole resolution, right, Johnson?
Second.
All right, but anyway, so you have 13. Just read from where I left off.
Whereas the representatives and/or proprietors of Pat Lodge LLC, DBA Titan Steakhouse of 947 South Lake Boulevard, Mahopac, New York, have advised of the intention to apply for an on-premises liquor license for which 30 days advance notice of such application must be sent to the municipality, and whereas the notice required by Article 5 of the Alcohol Beverage Control Law may be waived by the town board, and whereas the Town of Carmel Town Board does not intend to comment upon the application referred to herein, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby waives the 30-day notice requirement contained in Article 5 of the Alcohol and Beverage Control Law and states that it does not intend to offer any comment regarding said application for a liquor license at the premise referred to herein, and be it further resolved that the Town Clerk, Ann Spofford, is hereby authorized to sign a waiver of said notice on behalf of the Town of Carmel. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. If you're wondering where this restaurant's opening up, it's the former Dish. It's where the Dish restaurant is located in Mayapack Plaza. This new restaurant's opening up at the same location. So, all right, next resolution, number 14, is a resolution authorizing acceptance of a proposal for workers' compensation insurance. Councilwoman McDonough, would you read 14?
Shall resolve that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the acceptance of the proposal of Public Employer Risk Management Association, Inc., PERMA, for the provision of workers' compensation insurance coverage to the Town of Carmel for fiscal years 2020 and 2021. Said proposal in form and substance as is on file in the office of the Town Supervisor. And whereas the authorized representative of the Town of Carmel desires to secure the Town of Carmel's obligation to provide volunteer firefighters benefit law, volunteer ambulance workers benefit law, and workers' compensation benefits as applicable through participation in a group self-insurance program of which the Town of Carmel will be a member. The authorized representative of the Town of Carmel, duly conveyed in regular session, does hereby resolve pursuant to and in accordance with the provisions of Section 50 of the New York State Workers' Compensation Law and other applicable provisions of law and regulations thereunder, as follows. Section 1, the authorized representative hereinafter representative of the Town of Carmel does hereby resolve to secure the Town of Carmel's obligation to provide volunteer firefighters benefit law, volunteer ambulance workers benefit law, and workers' compensation benefits as applicable through participation in a group self-insurance plan of which the Town of Carmel will be a member. Section 2, the representative of the Town of Carmel does hereby resolve to become a member of Public Employer Risk Management Association, Inc., a workers' compensation group self-insurance program for local governments and other public employers and instrumentalities of the state of New York. Section 3, in order to effect the Town of Carmel's membership in said group self-insurance program, the authorized officer of the Town of Carmel is hereby authorized to execute and enter into the Public Employer Risk Management Association Workers' Compensation Program Agreement, annexed hereto as Exhibit A, on behalf of the Town of Carmel. Section 4, this resolution shall take effect immediately. I offer this resolution as read.
Okay, do we have a second on this?
I'll second.
Okay,
The
second.
confusion, sorry.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote?
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried, thank you. Okay, Resolution 15 is a resolution authorizing acceptance of proposal for engineering services, Carmel Water District Number 2, systems upgrade. Councilman Lupinacci, would you read 15, please?
Resolved that the Town Board of Town of Carmel, acting as Commissioners of Carmel Water District 2, and in accordance with the recommendations and memorandum of Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., hereby authorizes the acceptance of the amended proposal of J. Robert Fulchetti and Associates, LLC, originally received on November 1st, 2019, for preparation of construction documents, provide design, permitting, bid assistance, and construction engineering services for water distribution system upgrades, relining valves, and installation of new mains in response to the request of proposals issued October 4th, 2019, at a cost not to exceed $591,000, and be it further resolved that Deputy Supervisor Suzanne McDonough is hereby authorized to sign any and all documentations necessary to authorize the actions contained herein, and be it further resolved that Town Comptroller Marianne Maxwell is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget transfers or modifications required to fund the cost of this authorization. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, offered by Councilman Lupinacci, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough.
Are you allowing people to speak on this before it's voted?
You, the public? Normally, we don't, no. You can,
I thought you said we were.
you can speak on it.
Excuse me?
You can-
I think if there are people here that want to say something on this, they should.
Before we vote on it?
Well, they're gonna outvote me, so.
Well, you're probably right, Mike, but they can, the public can speak. Mike, the public can speak at the end of the meeting? I think the vote, I think the vote is good. I think it's going to pass. I could be wrong.
No, we both think it's gonna pass.
I think it's going to pass. So I'm not sure if the public speaking on it is going to really, unless the board wants to allow the public to speak on this before you vote on it.
I would give that to either Joe or Greg. I mean, procedurally, we haven't, but if we've done it in the past, that's totally up to Joe or Greg.
Well, we've done it in the past at the beginning of the meeting.
Oh,
At the
right.
very beginning of the meeting, not as the resolution came up.
Correct.
I've allowed people to speak prior to.
Yeah, because we have it read and a motion and seconded, so.
Right. Right. Okay. Again, I don't know if, you guys tell me, if, or you want we'll just take the vote. And they can speak at the end.
Yeah, that's fine.
John, same?
Yeah, again, we have a motion. If it's going to change we'd have to change the motion for discussion and stuff like that, so.
Right.
To my knowledge, past 8 years, but.
Yeah, the board, once a second is received, then the board can discuss it. Members of the board can speak before it's voted on, but generally the public doesn't speak prior to that. You know, that's procedurally, that's how we've done it. So unless the board wants to have any further comment on it. Jonathan, Mike, do you have any further comment on it before we vote on it, before the vote's taken?
No?
Okay. All right, there's a second, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Before I vote, this is the most disgraceful resolution I have seen in 2 years, and everybody should open their eyes to what's going on, because my voice is the reason why number 19, that costs the taxpayers a fortune, is on the agenda this evening. Absolutely not, no.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
No. So the resolution passes three yes and 2 noes.
And why on the resolution, did you refuse to sign it? I'm saying, why is Ms. McDonough on there as a signer?
As a signer?
Did you read the email from Joe Charbonneau?
I read everything.
Okay.
The
so then-
question is usually a deputy supervisor signs it after a resolution is made because the supervisor says he's not signing it. Am I wrong?
Mike, no, you're not wrong, Mike.
If I'm wrong, correct
What
me.
I took out of that, the email from Joe Charbonneau, and I think there was another email from another board member, is that 2 years ago, when the town board authorized JFRA's contract and John Falchetti's contract for engineering consultants with the town, I refused. I voted no, and then I refused to sign any checks, subsequent checks, or the contract for John Falchetti. So I refused at that time, and I think correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think too much changed between 2 years ago and now with respect to me signing off on the, either the checks or the contract because of how I feel about some of the things that transpired over the past couple of years.
Well, let's
I
keep
feel
going
the
so we
same.
don't have the public staying, waiting to speak.
Okay, all right. So we did the roll call vote? Okay. All right, next resolution is number 16, and that's a resolution for advancement of government funds as temporary loan from the general fund to Carmel Garbage District. This is for the cluster multifamily pickups. Councilman Schneider, I believe, Councilman Borelli, would you read number 16?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, pursuant to Town Law 209/B, hereby authorizes a temporary advancement of cash from the general fund to Carmel Garbage District cluster pickup at a maximum amount not to exceed $100,000, to be repaid with the periodic interest rate when revenue sources or debt proceeds are received. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Abstain?
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. So Jonathan, yes?
Yes.
Yes, 4 yeses and 1 abstention. Okay, next resolution, number 17, is a resolution authorizing signing of change order number 1. This is for Carmel Garbage District Contract C-239 for the collection of refuse, garbage, recyclable material, and bulk. Councilman Schneider, would you read 17, please?
Whereas the town of Carmel has previously entered into a contract for the single-family residential collection of refuse, garbage, recyclable materials, and bulk collection in the town of Carmel Townwide Garbage District with AAA Carting and Rubbish Removal, Inc. of Cortland Manor, New York, contract C-239. And whereas on November 6, 2019, the town board duly exercised its right to extend said contract for 2 additional one-year periods commencing January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, and January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, respectively. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of the various water districts within the town of Carmel, hereby authorizes the town supervisor to sign change order number 1 to the aforementioned contract, resulting in an overall contract price increase of $25,000 per month. Said change order to be in form as attached here to and made a part hereof, and be it further resolved that upon presentation and review of a performance bond for said contract in form acceptable to Town Council for years 2020 and 2021, Town Supervisor Kenneth Schmidt is hereby authorized to countersign said change order number 1, and be it further resolved that Town Comptroller Mary Ann Maxwell is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget transfers or modifications required to fund the cost of this authorization. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, offered by Councilman Schneider, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Abstain.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
And Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes. So 4 yeses and 1 abstention. Okay, next resolution, number 18, is a resolution authorizing entry into a contract for the collection of refuse, garbage, recyclable material, and bulk collection. This is for the cluster multifamily pickups. Councilwoman McDonough, would you read 18?
Sure, whereas the town of Carmel has previously entered into a contract for the cluster multifamily collection of refuse, garbage, recyclable material, and bulk collection with R&S Waste Services LLC dated October 31st, 2016, contract C-239. And whereas on November 6, 2019, the town board duly exercised its right to extend said contract for 2 additional one-year periods, commencing January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, and January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, respectfully. And whereas written notice of the exercise of the right to said extensions was duly provided by the Town of Carmel Engineering Department to R&S Waste Services LLC. And whereas the Town of Carmel subsequently received written notice from R&S Waste Services LLC that R&S Waste Services LLC has in fact refused, declined, and otherwise repudiated its obligations under the reference contract and will not be performing any of its required contract obligations for refuse, garbage, recyclable material, and bulk collection after December 31st, 2019. Whereas the failure and refusal of R&S Waste Services LLC to perform its contractual obligations to collect refuse, garbage, recyclable material, and bulk materials in the town of Carmel presents the existence of public emergency affecting the life, health, safety, or property of the residents of the town of Carmel. And whereas as a result of said public emergency, the town of Carmel has requested proposals from other licensed waste hauling entities to perform the abdicated responsibilities of R&S Waste Services LLC for the remaining contract period to January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2021. Now, therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel hereby determines that the failure and refusal of R&S Waste Services LLC to perform its contractual obligations to collect refuse, garbage, recyclable material, and bulk materials in the town of Carmel constitutes a public emergency pursuant to New York General Municipal Law, Section 103-4, which affects the life, health, safety, and property of the residents of the town of Carmel. And be it further resolved that pursuant to New York General Municipal Law, Section 103-4, the existence of such public emergency requires immediate action which cannot await formal competitive bidding or competitive offering. And be further resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel hereby authorizes entry into a contract with Oak Ridge Waste and Recycling of Connecticut LLC, Danbury, Connecticut, for years 2020 and 2021 at a contract price of $439,385.35 and $459,932.45, respectfully. And be further resolved that upon presentation and review of performance bond for said contract in form acceptable to town council for years 2020 and 2021, Town Supervisor Kenneth Schmidt is hereby authorized to countersign said any and all contract documentation required to carry out this authorization. And be further resolved, the Town Comptroller Mary Ann Maxwell is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget transfers or modifications required to fund the cost of this authorization. I offer this resolution as read.
Okay, offered by Councilwoman McDonough. Is there a second?
Seconded?
Seconded by Councilman Schneider. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lubinácy?
Abstain.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes. Motion carried, 3 yeses and 1 abstention. Okay, the ninth,
4 yeses, 1 abstention.
I'm sorry, 4 yeses, thank you, John.
No worries.
Four yeses and 1 abstention. Okay, so the 19th and final resolution this evening is a resolution causing the town engineer to undertake action to cap all connections to sewer district number 1 from 825 South Lake Boulevard, Mahopac. Councilman Lupinacci, would you read 19, please?
Whereas on October 24th, 2019, the superintendent of Carmel Sewer District Number 1 issued a first notification of violation and cease and desist hereinafter first NOV and cease and desist to Michael Borelli and Tommy Boniello, property owners, the owners of 825 South Lake Boulevard, hereinafter the property, which permitted the interim connection of the property to Sewer District Number 1 in the event that the property owners timely sought and prosecuted all required permits compiled with all compiled with all New York City DEP testing requirements and keep the town apprised of such efforts. N, whereas the town property owners failed to comply with the terms and obligations set forth in the first NOV and cease and desist, and whereas on December 6, 2019, the owners of the property conducted a dye testing which established that the property is connected to Sewer District Number 1 in a second location that at no point has been disclosed to or approved by the town nor New York City DEP. Whereas on December 18, 2019, the town engineer withdrew the town's acknowledgement of the property's out-of-district application to New York City DEP as a result of the property owner's application having represented that historic engineering drawings were as-built for the line, but which were inaccurate and misleading, and further advised New York City DEP that the town may reinitiate the out-of-district request at such time that the property owners provide accurate as-built drawings under the seal of an independent third-party New York professional engineer. Whereas the town engineer determined that the past and continued connection of the property to Sewer District Number 1 without notice to the town or New York City DEP constitutes a violation of the town sewer use law and a potential violation of the 1939 agreement between the town and New York City, which governs which properties may be connected to Sewer District Number 1 for the ultimate acceptance and treatment of waste at the New York City DEP's Mahopac Wastewater Treatment Facility. And whereas on December 18, 2019, the town engineer issued a second notice of violation and cease and desist, which finds that the additional illicit connection constitutes a violation of the town sewer use law and requires, among other things, that the owners of the property forthwith disconnects the connection lines which originate at the property pending removal of the second line, and excavate and cap the second connecting line, and cooperating with the capping of the connection in the MCP 97 Clark Place manhole, and to provide additional notice of, coordinate with, and permit the presence of the town engineer and its consultants during all such activities. And now therefore, it is hereby resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the town engineer to enter into a contract that provides for service and to henceforth obtain all permits and undertake all such actions necessary in order for the second line which enters the Sewer District Number 1 sewer main somewhere between MCP 97 Clark Place manhole and the downstream MCP 96 manhole to be excavated and capped, and to cause the current or future town sewer district maintenance contractor to cap the connecting lines which enter Sewer District Number 1 in the MCP 97 Clark Place manhole. Absence the declaration of a public health or safety emergency as determined by the town engineer or any other regulatory authority, such contract to be procured through a request for proposals. And be it further resolved that in the event that the property owners have not taken the necessary steps to cease all outflows of the property through the connecting lines between the MCP 97 Clark Place manhole and the MCP 96 manhole, the connecting lines in the MCP 97 Clark Place manhole prior to February 18th, 2020, or otherwise received all permits and approvals required by law to utilize any such connection, the town board directs the town engineer to complete the capping of all lines which divert wastewater from the property to Sewer District Number 1 no later than February 18th, 2020. And be it further resolved that the town engineer should notify the property owners 7 calendar days prior to the initiation of the work provided for in the foregoing contract, that the work provided for in that contract will be performed. And be it further resolved that the town reserves all rights to seek recovery for any payments for all such expenditures authorized by this resolution. I offer this resolution as read. And as
Second.
pre-filed with the town clerk.
Okay, motion was made by Councilman Lupinacci, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Obviously abstain.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
I'm going to abstain, and I'll tell you why. This is a 232-page second notification of violation for a cease and desist order. I received it at 12:15 this afternoon, 232 pages. I had a lot of other work to do today, town business that I had to attend to with New York State. I didn't have an opportunity to read this, so I'm going to abstain from the vote. I need time to read this, and it's going to take probably half a day. So I'm abstaining. So it passes 3 yes and 2 abstentions. Resolution passes. So that completes the agenda items for this evening's Town Board voting meeting. I'm going to open up the floor to public comment now for agenda items that we covered this evening. Agenda items only, and that's for 3 minutes, please. And I just need you to state your name.
How you doing? Angelo Cartolemi, how are you?
Good.
I got just a question on number 18. You guys said that RNS didn't do their job or whatever. Do you guys have like a bond that you guys are going to go after for them? Do you know?
I'm going to defer to council on that.
RNS has indicated that they won't be doing their contract work after the first of the year.
But do you have a bond you're going to go after for the difference?
We'll talk to the town board about our options and what we're going to do in that circumstance. I can't say at this particular point, but whatever's done will be done at a public meeting when the board takes the action, so you'll be able to watch the agendas and whatnot.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Agenda items at this time, come on up. Pat, did you have anything else to add? No? Okay, all right, yep, good night. Mr. Butler,
Good evening.
is that on, John? I believe I left it on.
I don't know.
Vinny? Vinny, is that on? Okay, thank you.
I can scream if you like, it's okay. John Butler, Hamlet of Carmel, but more importantly, a ratepayer resident of Carmel Water District Number 2. So the agenda item I want to address tonight is number 15, the resolution authorizing acceptance of proposal for engineering services, Carmel Water District Number 2 system upgrades. Just before I ask questions and comments, just want to, again, recap what's in the resolution as far as the services that are going to be provided under this contract. And they are preparation of construction docks, provide design, permitting, bid assistance, and construction engineering services for water distribution system upgrades. Those water distribution system upgrades are going to cost 14, 15, 6, I can't remember, but it's going to be in the area of 14, 15, 16 million dollars for the actual work. Therefore, if the services to be provided under this contract are not done properly, insufficiently, and competently, it's not only this contract, it has the ripple effect to go to the actual work itself, and we could start impacting that $14 and $15 million construction cost, time delays, additional costs, et cetera. So the significance of this contract is not the contract itself, it's a lot of other things downstream. So for the first time ever, might not be the first time ever, we have a resolution with the town supervisor, who's also, I think, referred to as the chief financial officer of the town, is not signing a resolution that is dispersing $591,000 on a contract. So on its own, that's extraordinary, it's unusual, I've never heard about it, but again, you know, I don't do this for a living, and may have happened somewhere else, or maybe even here. So in order to sort of, you know, deconstruct this, and I think for the benefit of the citizens and the residents of the water district, who, by the way, will be paying for not only this contract, but all of the other expenditures that are going to be incurred. The people in Carmel Water District Number 2 are paying the bills, okay? So my question to start off with, what is the current relationship of the town with J. Robert Falchetti Associates, notwithstanding this bid? What exactly is our relationship with that firm right now?
They are the consulting engineering firm for the town of Carmel.
Okay. And there was a contract signed to that effect, I think you mentioned 2 years
2
ago,
years ago.
something like that? And the amount of money paid for that, in that contract to Falchetti Associates? Just anecdotally, ballpark figure.
It's $10,000 a month for basic services that are within the contract, are paid to John E. Falchetti.
Okay. As an
Who's-
individual?
John, as an individual, yes. But he's also in the contract for providing, so it's JRFA Associates is the firm, the consulting engineering firm. The engineer for that firm for the town of Carmel is also named in the contract as John E. Falchetti, is the engineer that's providing the engineering services to the town.
And the checks that are dispersed for that services, which you don't sign, I assume you sign those checks? Are made payable to the firm or the individual?
The individual.
The individual.
Individual.
The individual. Does this town pay anyone on an individual basis for anything else other than salaries of municipal employees?
Gentleman down there, gentleman over there, we have a few of them in here, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Other professional services, sure, we have someone who's a consultant, right, that would be in regards to, I'm not sure if the planning board is, but I think that for professional services, we do have a lot.
Okay, so now getting down to the specific bid process for this contract, were these sealed bids? Were these sealed bids?
It was a request for proposals, RFP.
So they weren't sealed?
But, Joe, do you want to come up? Do you know what
I
this,
think
or
Rich.
Rich,
I think
Rich, I'm
might know.
sorry.
Rich-
Yes,
Rich may know
Rich.
that answer.
Because I think there's some confusion as to RFP and bids. So maybe you can explain that.
They were for requests for proposal.
Okay.
They're not sealed, well, they're sealed when they get in. They were all opened at the same time on whatever date that the RFP was due back in on, in the presence of my account clerk in the office.
Okay, and obviously yourself.
Yes.
Right. So back to the J. Robert Falchetti Associates LLC and the individual and their role in the town. Are they provided workspace in the town hall? Or he provided workspace in the town hall?
Rich, can you answer
Does
that?
he have a desk?
Yeah.
He has a seat, we have a table there that he sits in, but it's the table that's in my office. If you came to my office at any given time, we would sit around that table, that is where he sits. But we would also sit there if you came in and talked to me too, John.
Okay. So therefore, as an individual, a person who is sitting within the confines of Town Hall and specific in the engineering office, do they not have access to information, just even verbal communications taking place on a telephone that would have nothing to do with their job under this contract?
I don't know if I understand your question, Your Honor.
Okay, I'll rephrase it. Is, therefore, this independent contractor, since they are working within the engineering office of the town of Carmel, does that person have access to information in that office that may not or does not apply to their work?
Well,
Access.
I just want to jump in, because I just need to understand it also. So, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So if you're asking if any of our, like people like John Fulchetti, meaning like.
No, not people like him specifically.
No, but you're saying because I think I just want to make, so let's say if Jeff Contalmo comes in, or any of our other contractors, or,
Yeah.
come in, it would be the same, if I'm not mistaken. Like,
So they are
right,
provided
Rich?
workspace in our town hall, these
They-
outside
So-
contractors?
They sit around the table,
At
or they
meeting-
sit
at
in
meetings.
Kenny's office.
At meetings.
They don't have
The-
a assigned desk. They don't have an assigned computer. They
and-
don't have an assigned phone to their disposal.
Okay.
Does that somewhat
Yeah,
help
I'm
out?
trying-
Well,
I
it
don't
makes
know what they're
perfect
trying-
sense. So when outside contractors come into town hall to attend to town business in which they're engaged, they engage with meetings of town personnel, elected officials, whomever it is. That work is finished, they get out, they go in their car, they go back to an office. In the case of Mr. Fulchetti, if whatever meeting he attends, he gets up and goes back to the office in the engineering department of the town of Carmel.
No, that's not how that works. And you're assuming he's here 40 hours a week?
How often is he here? How many hours?
He's typically here a couple of days a week. I don't know, recently it hasn't been as much, but
Is there a sign-in, sign-out
There is not.
process? Okay, so you're just kind of
Ballparking
recalling
it,
to the
yes.
best of your knowledge. So we really don't know how much time Mr. Falchetti spends inside the engineering office in an unsupervised fashion.
I don't know what you mean by the unsupervised fashion.
Well, I'm meaning that he could be in your engineering office by himself when everyone's out to lunch. Is that an impossibility, or is that something that could occur?
It's an impossibility, because
can
when
never
he's there,
occur.
when he's there, I'm there.
Okay, all the time. Never an exception, ever.
Pretty much never an exception, yes.
Okay.
I mean, I just feel, and I don't mean to, maybe I'm
Say-
reading too much in it. I
Feel
just
free.
feel like you're almost like attacking Mr. Fulchetti, because in the thing,
Why? I'm
like you're.
asking
No,
questions.
I know you're.
This could
and
apply
that's
to
why- and
Joe
that's why-
Schmo.
And that's
Doesn't
why I
have to
said.
be him. Could be anyone.
That's why I'm saying, okay, when Jeff Contalmo comes in, we give him Airport Park, per se, correct? We
Okay.
give him a whole bunch of stuff for Airport Park. He comes in and speaks with Rich.
Okay.
So it's the same, so I know we're talking about John Fulchetti's
Well, it's a
thing
unique
here.
position. It's a unique, everything about this is
A
unique.
lot of things in this town are unique.
Yeah, I know,
Yes.
usually most of them bad, uniquely bad
They-
in their own,
Everyone has their own opinions.
in their definition.
Everyone has their opinions.
Anyway, back
Okay,
to,
go ahead.
if we could, back to the RFP. So how many RFP submissions were there?
4 companies submitted, we sent it out to 7.
7. Selection process for sending out the RFP request? How do the 7 identified, on what basis? For a very big contract, for a very big project?
They're selected based on their size, locality, so companies that were local, within White Plains, that type of area. Companies that have done this work before, that is how it's done. They have to be more of a full-service company versus just a one-stop shop.
So I would think, for a contract of this side, I would think that, and again, I'll just say it, I'm not asking a question, it's totally unqualified comment, but I am hard-pressed to believe that there are no more than 7 qualified engineering firms, let's just say in downstate to mid-state New York, there's got to be more than 7 qualified firms. How did you identify the 7 again? Just I mean, what is your reference point? How do you identify what's their address or whatever?
What's their address?
Yeah, I mean,
So,
for
John,
for
I've
example,
been
what's the
working in this
criteria? So
business.
did you solicit RFPs from engineering firms in the Capital District of Albany, for example?
When there are companies that have the abilities to do that, yes. If there's a dam engineering company that we need dam work for, we would contact Schnabel Engineering. They're out of the Albany office,
So,
Albany area, sorry.
so therefore, would it be correct to say, in your opinion, there are no qualified engineering firms for this contract in the Capital District surrounding Albany in New York State?
It's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
You're putting words in my mouth, John.
No, no, I'm not. I'm asking a question. So would it not be appropriate to, again, especially in the size of this particular contract and the wide-ranging project itself, to broaden that RFP proposal request to beyond 7 engineering firms? I'm finding
So, John,
it-
so
I don't get it.
companies that were brought in were Woodard and Curran. They're outside, their main office, I believe, is in Boston.
Okay.
But they have an office in White Plains, so we're broad now.
Okay. No, you're in White Plains, but
Weston
okay.
and Sampson is Hopewell Junction, Albany, they have their offices out of, but they're a Massachusetts company also.
Okay.
Okay, Arcadis, their main office is in Stockholm, well, somewhere in the Dutch Netherlands. So, but their main office is in White Plains that we'd be dealing with. So that's an international company we sent it out
I
to.
know,
So,
I'm
so
familiar.
the selection process was made that way. Hazen and Sawyer, large company located out of New York City.
Okay. So when the RFPs were received and reviewed, I noticed in the resolution, the Falchetti proposal was amended.
In this resolution.
It was
The
amended.
words say that the hereby authorizes the acceptance of the amended proposal of J. Robert Falchetti and Associates.
There was a request made by the engineering department to see if he would reduce his overall fee, hence the amendment.
Was that request made to the other 6 RFP proposers?
There were only 4 that came in,
Okay.
and only to the 2 lowest, not all 4, because the other 2 were way out of range with their numbers. They would never have been able to meet the 2 lowest ones.
But you made that supposition, you didn't actually ask them.
In my professional judgment, I made that decision, yes.
Why wouldn't it have been appropriate and pretty easy, I think, to ask all 4 bidders to reduce their proposals and simply get presumably a negative response? Why do we make an assumption in that case?
Again, it was my professional judgment to do that. You normally would go with the lowest 2, you would ask them that. That's just professional judgment.
Okay.
Was it past practice also with not Intermark?
With Infomark, there were only 3 that were there, and we did ask them, that was when we had the operations contract, there were only 3 proposals in there. We did ask all 3 at that point in time.
Do you speak to the principals of Woodard and Curran?
I actually spoke to them. They're actually old friends of mine. I've known them for a long time.
Frank
So I've
Catalano?
spoken to Don Werdeman and Joe Barbagallo. I haven't had a chance to speak to Catalano recently, Mr. Catalano. But,
You spoke to Joe Barbagallo?
I actually spoke to him this evening. And I spoke to him about what was going on tonight. Mentioned to him that I was recommending John Robert Falchetti and Associates, and he said that was unfortunate. He would like to have won the job. However, he understands, that this is part of business.
Did they ask to have a sit-down with you? To go over their proposal?
They did not.
When you went back to them and asked them about a revised proposal, did they give you a revision?
So I sent an email to Don Werdeman, and again, just for matter of record, I used to work for Don Werdeman. I reported to him for about 5 or 7 years at Malcolm Perney. I worked with Joe Barbagallo at Malcolm Perney. I worked with Anthony Catalano at Malcolm Perney. I went to college with Anthony Catalano, so I've known these people a very long time.
That's not the company that's getting the award.
That is not the company that's getting the award. So I did send an email to Don Werdeman, and I asked if they would lower their price, and their response was, we would sit down with the town of Carmel and lower the price. You're right, Mike, they did say that. However, they would change the scope. They wanted, in order to lower the price, they would change the scope. So they weren't budging on the price, is what they were saying.
Did any, well, I guess, did any of the four proposers present to the town board? Or speak or discuss their proposals with town board members?
No, we don't normally, not that I know of. I don't know if the town board members met with them. I can't speak for them.
No?
No.
Yeah, I don't know of any scenario, other than maybe the Water District 2, when we went, and I was walking through with you and the engineering firms, but that was a walkthrough prior to a proposal, so that they got an understanding. But I don't know any time that there was a negotiation, even with garbage, I think there was questions before bids, but never after come in and present to us after that.
No.
Except for, I'm sorry,
No,
most recently,
the
our
master
master plan.
plan. The
That's the
master plan.
only time I can think of in 8 years.
The master plan.
Okay.
No, I'm probably wrong. John, you're already looking at me like there's more times.
Came in and, for the last contract.
Oh, and VTI, VRI, VCI? Okay.
And Info,
Yeah, I stand corrected, sorry.
and Veolia. Sorry, my apologies.
But I had
the
not
three that
seen
we
any
just
of these
mentioned.
four engineering firms on this. And I don't think I've seen anything from anybody on anything with Water District 2, between towers and relining and emergency projects and,
John?
Yes.
Do you have a final question? Because
I do.
you're pretty much way beyond 3 minutes at this
Yeah, I
point.
know.
All right. So if you have a final
I have a
question.
question that's 15 minutes long. Does that count?
No.
Oh, no. Okay, I'll try to cut it back then. I have a lot of questions, but I want to ask them. So, as a procedural matter, and again, we're going back to the signing of this resolution, not by the chief financial officer, but a member of the board. I don't know how this works, but is it not the responsibility, I think it's the responsibility of the town supervisor, whenever there's a disbursement of funds from the town, to sign off on that disbursement, which is obviously not happening here? And I just wonder whether, it has nothing to do with you, Susie, I'm just wondering that Councilwoman McDonough signing this resolution,
Deputy supervisor. It's different than a council.
well, I think it's both, but okay, well said. So,
It's assigned to her because she's a deputy supervisor. It wasn't assigned to Mr. Borelli,
but,
myself,
okay,
or
so
Mr.
again,
Schneider.
it's, as part of that same question, what are the duties of the deputy supervisor? And do those duties include signing resolutions that disperse town funds when the town supervisor is able and present to do so?
I believe, and Greg, if you want to answer this, but yeah, you may,
I can answer it as a general matter.
It's a procedural.
As a general matter, I can answer that the town board can authorize any town board member or any purchasing agent to sign any contract. We've done it with the chief of police, we've done it with engineering, we do it with highway. The town board can, and on any contract, before we get carried away. Okay? Nothing to do with this one. If the town board authorizes an individual to sign it, that person has the authorization to sign it. And typically, it's one of your purchasing agents who are set forth in your procurement policy.
and also, to further that, some of the responsibilities is if Kenny is on vacation or whatever reason it is, I take his responsibilities, phone calls, whatever it may be.
I get
It-
that. and
Yeah,
that
so I'm
makes
just
perfect sense, but
answering,
he's sitting here.
yeah, I'm just answering
No,
your question.
I get it. Okay, so we have a contractor acting as an individual who's paid $10,000 a month plus other fees, as I understand it, for additional duties, that has provided an RFP on a totally separate contract and has been awarded that contract. I'm not a lawyer, not an engineer, barely able to get up in the morning, but I think, in my favorite Latin phrase, res ipsa liquidator, the thing speaks for itself. It's an inherent conflict of interest. I find it absolutely incredible. And I think if we went door to door to each person in this water district and asked them the same question, with the understanding they get what's going on here, I'm 100% sure that they would agree. And I honestly think, and I don't know what I'm going to do, but I think this question needs to be asked to outside agencies, quite frankly, and I think a resident needs to do so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Rich, I just have a quick question for you. When, I think it was the RFPs that went out correct me if I'm wrong, for the relining or something with the tanks, didn't JRF Volchetti's put in an RFP or I don't know if it was an RFP or bid or something for that, and they did not get it, correct?
So, yeah, RFP, R 2019-006 was the storage tank. They were not awarded that
Okay,
project.
so-
And that was awarded actually to the second highest bidder because they were only hired by about $1,000.
Okay, so my thinking, since Mr. Butler thought, is when that was brought to everybody's attention, nothing was brought up at that time, so it just seems now that he was awarded it, it's a problem, but when he wasn't awarded it, it wasn't a problem. That's the only thing I had to say. Okay, next.
Good evening. Greg Elner. I also live in Water District 2, and I work in the water and wastewater industry, so I have a little bit of experience regarding procurement operations. My first question, well, I'm going to state with this. I wish that the board would reconsider and send this back to the engineering department, because I wanted to speak before, because I had a problem with this, and my problem is that the RFP limited all the respondents because it said specifically that we were only going to reline pipe. I live there. I would prefer new pipe. New pipe may be more expensive, but new pipe also can be larger and allow for more flows, which means more available flows to the fire hydrant. And it's commonplace that with more fire flow available, all the residents' homeowners' rates could be reduced. And I know of an engineering firm who decided not to bid this, who wrote a letter to the town saying such. So from a technical aspect, I would have preferred to see this redone.
I have that, Greg, if you want me to read from it.
I don't think it's necessary. I only have around 3 minutes. But that's my opinion. I lived there. I want to live there for a long time, and new pipe is better than repaired pipe. And we're going to bond this over 30 years. So that was what I wish you would have considered before. And Joe, am I correct that the board can choose to vote right now and refer it back to engineer for another, to Rich Franzetti, town engineer, for another RFP?
Well, they've
Because
already-
why are we handcuffing the designer? Why was the decision made, just because it's less expensive, we're going to line the pipe?
I think there were over 10 coupons that were taken in locations that were strategically identified, and from those coupon samples, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was all based on coupon samples, actual information. Do we need to replace? Do we need to reline? And I think when we looked at a cost comparison, it was such an astronomical difference in was it February we had a public meeting?
Yeah, but John, we never did a detailed hydraulic study, and I went on my own and I found estimates that a hydraulic study of the flows throughout the water district is going to be somewhere between $35,000 and $45,000. Then we would have had a document prepared by a professional engineer, probably from what I'm understanding contractually from J. Robert Folchetti Associates, and then we'd know. And then the determination can be made, is it worth it to spend the extra money over 30 years and have better piping, better flow? I can tell you for sure, at the end of Sunset Ridge, for living here for 17 years, that my water pressure is so bad that B&J Plumbing installed a full-time variable frequency drive booster pump in my house. So this is going back 17 years. So there's a problem with flows. Now, if my insurance company, because this is going to find out, they're going to find out, realizes that there's not enough flow to my fire hydrants, my rates are going to go up. And I shared with one of the councilmen, my rates are crazy as they are. So I'm asking for a technical aspect to have Rich and his department determine it. So that's one reason why I would ask you to rebid it.
Hey, Greg, I'm curious about one thing, though. Rich, who did the February 2019 Carmel Water District 2 System Facility Plan?
As the board is aware, that was developed by John Robert Folchetti and Associates. Along with the engineering department, I was part of it, but he is the one who wrote it. So Greg, I just got to touch base on, touching base with what John said, the structural improvements on the pipe, we did perform coupons. If you looked at any of the reports that were provided, you've probably seen the tuberculation within those pipes. We have about 10 miles of those pipes that look like that. So when you look at that, your Hazen-Williams coefficient in that type of pipe is probably about a 40 or a 60, if it's even that much in some of the
Well,
areas.
for everybody at home, basically, when you line pipe with a plastic material such as PVC, even though you have a smaller diameter, there's less friction and flows are going to increase. So there's going to be an improvement, there's no doubt about it.
Okay, so the comment that's being made, though, that the cementatious lining, isn't going to provide significant increase in flow, in those tuberculated pipes, it's going to increase the flow significantly. And cement lining would give you that friction
Rich,
factor of 130 to
with
140.
the scope of this
we looked at
project
this.
in excess of $15 million between engineering, $600,000 for engineering, estimates of $14 million. What's another $35,000 to $40,000 to have an engineer, and it sounds like we have one right here, to do a study so we can make a real comparison with what it would cost?
$13,397,000, I think is the figure.
That's my problem with this, okay? The other thing is, which I have a problem with, is we sent the RFP out, if I heard correctly, to 7 people. We received
7 firms.
7 firms. We only received 4 responses. Well, a little bit more than 50%. That tells me there's a problem with the RFP. Everybody should respond.
So if you want to come in or foil the records, you could see the reason why some of the companies didn't do it. So one didn't even respond, but they hadn't responded in a bunch. One of them said that they don't want to have too many bites at the apple here at the town of Carmel.
Fine.
Okay, but, so that doesn't say anything's bad. That was a reason they don't want to have another bite at the apple.
I'm allowed to have my professional judgment and my professional opinion.
And I agree.
Okay? And the other thing here is, what I can't understand is, yes, they were high bids, but don't you owe it to everyone who took the time to respond that you should ask them, hey, amend it? Because when you say change the scope, changing the scope could mean an alternative. And we've been denied the opportunity to see if there was an alternative.
So no change of scope was done. I don't know what you mean by that.
You mentioned that one of the engineering firms said they like to come in and they could reduce their price if they changed the scope. And
Correct.
changing the scope, to me, could mean an alternative. So you dismissed that, or whoever was deciding it dismissed it.
Well, it could be an alternative. That's an assumption you're making. It could be that they say, I don't want to do the construction management services. I could have been any part of that aspect.
Exactly.
Right, so we don't know what that is. So it may not have been an alternative without actually sitting with them.
Which is my point exactly. Why weren't they given the opportunity to sit with them so we could find out and investigate?
Because one firm said, I'll lower it, and the other one said, we're not lowering it unless you change the scope. That to me
Unless
says
we
we're not.
change the scope, or
no,
they
unless
would
we
change
can
the
sit down
scope.
and change
Big
the scope.
difference.
Well,
Okay.
I don't have the words.
The
in
other
front of me.
question is, does this contract include construction management, and if so, what's the percentage?
Yes, and I don't know that off the top of my head. I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay? Because I wish there were other people from Water District 2 in here tonight, but I can tell you from the last project, specifics, okay? My street, Sunset Ridge, was torn up for months. It had to be patched 3-4 times until, if I'm not mistaken, Mike Simone had the highway department, not the contractor, take care of it. Construction equipment was left on people's yards. Pipe was left on people's yards. At my child's bus stop on Sunset Ridge, there was a Bobcat and pipe left there for months, unused. So supervision was lacking. We're now going to go to a huge project with the execution here. So I would have liked to have seen this. But now that all the bids are here, I'm going to direct this to Town Clerk Spofford. So right now, I can get a copy of every single proposal. I can get a copy of every single email between the town and any of these respondents. Is that correct?
You can obtain copies of the proposals. The emails might have to be reviewed.
And why would they be reviewed?
There's certain times, conditions in an email where things can be either redacted or not disclosed.
But this is about a contract that's been awarded, so shouldn't it be public information now?
Not everything, not necessarily. I'm not saying no. I'm just
No,
saying
you're,
that
you're,
certain-
you're advising what may be, okay. So all I could say is I wish you would reconsider, because there's more work to be done here, because you're gonna have a lot of unhappy residents. I know I will be very unhappy. I've been living and I can wait. Do it right. Don't rush into it. And the last thing here is, two of you are lame ducks. These two guys take office. One of them lives in Water District 2, and he's going to have to live with this project. And I think that he's going to be a greater interested party because he's affected. And I would prefer that to take place. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Just a quick point. You had asked a question, Greg, about fire hydrants. And right, flow, fire hydrants, insurance could get rates higher. So I only know this because I am definitely not an engineer. When you started talking about flow coefficients, I looked at her and all I could say was engineering talk because I don't know what you're talking about. But with fire hydrants, I know we would go out and we would have to annually test fire hydrants. So if there was a failure, you would be notified. Fire department would be notified. Insurance company would definitely be notified. No. In regards to failing on a flow rate, meaning you don't have a sufficient flow to suppress a fire by National Fire Protection Act. So if there was anything that was a question about the ability to suppress a fire, it would have been brought up absolutely in that annual fire test. Would you agree with that, Ken?
Jonathan, there's a big difference between adequate to suppress a fire and being superior.
Absolutely,
And being able
and that's
to.
why we're looking
And
to do this
we-
project.
We had the tragedy on Wyndham Lane.
Absolutely, and that's
In
why
this
we're having
district.
this project taken care of. One thing that I continue to hear, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, cost is a huge factor. I mean, we're looking at 13 million, and I know there could be alternatives done. We could probably research 100 different alternatives. Fact is, people still have brown water being delivered to their house, and time is a concern. Every time that we say, let's check this out, let's check this out, we're talking probably 4-month minimum if we're going to do an RFP on anything for any study just to get that to come back before we could touch anything else. I believe that we have a qualified firm that probably has more in-depth knowledge on Water District 2 than most other firms that would have been able to bid on this project. I also believe that they came in at the lowest bid. I've never had a question about their professionalism, and I've never had a question about Rich's professionalism. And I'm happy to see this project continue in a timely fashion. And I understand that we can always have a difference of opinion, but in the end, we're delivering hopefully clean water in a timely, efficient manner that meets general municipal law. And because there was the words conflict of interest brought in, I just want to get clarification. Joe, you were brought in as a separate counsel in order to have a kind of third-person perspective on this. You reviewed the initial contract with the engineer?
Just to be clear, the town attorney was conflicted with respect to this. I was asked to attend an executive session last week relative to this. Thereafter, I was tasked with preparing the resolution, which I did. I took it upon myself to review the previous contract that I was intimately involved with respect to J. Robert Fulchetti and Associates, as well as John E. Fulchetti. I reviewed that contract to make sure that it was consistent with, because there are certain parameters that are in that contract that allow and do not allow that firm to bid on certain projects. There are certain threshold monetary values in that contract. So I reviewed then the RFP itself, as well as, I believe that there were 2 town engineering memos, one dated December 13th, and the other date, I'm sorry, one dated, no, it was just a single town engineering memo dated December 13th, 2019, and there were 2 dates on the RFP. One was 10/4/19, the other was 10/17/19. So those were the items that I reviewed in connection with the preparation of the resolution. I thereafter provided that to the town board. And just so the record is clear with respect to the drafting of the resolution, I took it upon myself to include Deputy Town Supervisor McDonough, her name, in that resolution, strictly for the reason that when I was involved in the January 2018 drafting and negotiation of the engineering consultant contract, That contract was signed by Suzanne McDonough. I put her name in that original resolution. There was then colloquy between myself and the board, and there was talk of removing it and leaving that item blank. That's an issue. It's up to the board as to who they wish to designate. So that's the extent of my involvement.
Jonathan, you just mentioned something. You said that this was the low bid. Excuse me, the low response, because it's an RFP. This was the low number.
I don't know if John mentioned that, but that's definitely something that Rich said, yes.
Not the original submissions. The original submissions, it was not the lowest number. Originally, when they came back, the proposals came back, it was second lowest. The lowest was Woodard and Curran. They were the lowest when they were initially received by the engineering department, the proposals. John Fulchetti lowered it after there was a request made for him to revisit the numbers to see if there was any movement off the numbers, if he can reduce it. That's when it was reduced to 591. But originally, you're correct, it was not the lowest. It is now, by virtue of him lowering it.
So I see you guys, there's a matrix that was developed based on the what was in the RFP. I have a spreadsheet that I've used for the past 6 or 8 professional services RFPs. Never been questioned before, it's being questioned now. What I do is I do a ranking system based on what was part of the RFP, and in there it includes time frame to do work, cost, what they're offering in the scope, any kind of extras that they're offering within it, and I have a spreadsheet that I've used consistently throughout. In that spreadsheet, when the original one came through, John Fulchetti's firm was ranked higher, marginally higher, but still higher. My suggestion to the board via an email was his price was higher. We've done this before for, Infomark when we had them there, asked them to lower their prices. We said, why don't we ask those 2 guys to lower their prices, and that's what we did. That's how we got to this point.
Yeah, this
There's a
sounds like
matrix that I developed.
standard engineering practice where you have a set of criteria and you create a weighted average. So price might be worth 25%.
Correct.
Geographic proximity, I'm just pulling this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay?
Right.
So you have this spreadsheet.
Yep.
Okay? And you've used the same spreadsheet on project over project over project. Okay? Do you have policies in place, written policies, saying how you come up with the evaluation for each section of that of the spreadsheet, or is that arbitrary?
The policy is a spreadsheet I developed in 2017 as part of an RFP that we put out to rank whoever proposes on projects. So there's no policy that the board came up with?
Each one of these so many ranking, do you have written policy saying that this section is ranked based upon, or is it arbitrary and capricious?
Well, he's not going to say that it's arbitrary and capricious, okay? I assume, and I'll let Rich answer the question, but I'm going to assume that he develops a rubric over the years from various RFPs for engineering professional services that he utilizes, but feel free
Yeah,
to
and
answer.
what I'm asking is for each section of that rubric, does the town or Rich have written policies on how he, for example, well, if I saw the rubric, I'd know what it would be, but experience. How do you determine experience? Is there a policy that says experience is determined by A, the project manager, B, how many times that project manager has done business with the town, C, what that person's credentials in terms of degrees, are there written policies for each section of that rubric, or is it arbitrary? And is that foilable?
Greg, what bothered me last Wednesday, which is part of what you're asking, for 30 years, somebody's worked up in the engineering department named Rob Vara, who's called a project coordinator. And I always thought with all RFPs or all bids, he was there and he worked with it. And I asked Rich, I said, who vetted him? Who rated him? Who made all the phone calls? And he said, he did, the engineer did. I said, was Rob involved in any of this? He said, no. I go, why not? That's what bothered me too, that you just...
What I'm asking is there a standard for the evaluation, or is it very subjective? Not very. Is it subjective? Is there a degree of subjectivity and arbitrary for the way this thing gets ranked?
Joe's laughing.
It's professional judgment, Greg. I mean, I've been working in this business for 30 years. It's professional judgment.
So it's your judgment.
I can review it, and you can tell.
Right,
You can
and
tell by
just
the
so
way
you
things are
understand
written.
where I'm
Just
going-
the way you would be able to look at it and go, yay or nay to certain things.
Okay, because where I'm going with this is your professional judgment. I can't think of the last time that the town board did not take the engineer's recommendation for a project. So your professional judgment is held in very high esteem by the town board, and I just want to understand the process. Am I correct with that? The town board almost always takes the engineer's recommendation for an award for
Yeah, we
That's a
usually-
fair
design
yeah,
services?
Yeah, we,
Yes, almost
we
always.
usually take most of the recommendations of the recreation director, of anybody, you know, because they're the professionals.
I won't. I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
Is there anyone else here for public comment on agenda items? Come on up.
So for the new year, this is going to be changed to 40 minutes.
Hi, everybody. Jean Hopper. Mayor Pack, how's everybody doing?
How are you?
I'm a little confused by this issue. So, what is the concern? Is the RFP that wasn't done? I mean, Mr. Fulchetti, John Fulchetti, has a contract with the town, right? Is he not able to bid on with RFPs?
He is.
He is, so that's not in question. I'm also concerned because I've been coming to so many of these meetings for the last few years, and I know that the water districts have mentioned several times about expediency. And as Mr. Schneider mentioned, and I couldn't agree more, talking about relining, not lining, new pipes, I thought all that was hammered out, and that was all resolved. So to bring that up at the 11th hour now, right before, we're going now full steam ahead after you've waited so long for this to happen, has me a little confused. I'm just wondering why that would be. I thought that, time was of the essence. We talked about, Ken, you didn't sign the contract, and that's why Susie, as deputy, but you had signed the prior contract that we had with John Fulchetti.
2 contracts ago.
2 prior
2 ago,
ones.
yeah.
And you had signed both.
The first one.
The
initial
first one.
Yeah.
And what changed the second time, if we may find that out?
The one even before we came on the
Yeah.
board. So there
Right.
was 2.
There were 2, yeah.
Oh, so you signed 2, and you didn't sign the third?
Correct,
Okay.
I think, right.
So what changed? Was the
Are you
contract?
asking me why?
Yeah, I'm asking you
Because I
why.
didn't agree with the terms and conditions of the contract.
Were they the same
I
as the last?
I disagreed with the language of the contract.
Okay.
Specifically, you want to hear specifics as to why?
Yeah,
I
sure.
disagreed with the $10,000 a month payment for basic services.
For the monthly,
Right.
right, okay.
That's pretty much the sum of.
Was that in the prior 2 contracts? Or did the amount go up, or was it 10,000 the first 2?
There was actually
Contracts.
an expansion of the basic services in the
Right.
extension from the previous contracts.
Okay, so it was pretty much the same, it was similar
Same cost, more beneficial to the taxpayer.
Correct.
on the first 2?
The numbers changed on the
numbers-
second.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think we actually got it lower.
It was, no,
Yeah.
no.
Beneficial to the
Yeah.
taxpayers is,
I don't know if it was that.
I could be here all night with this.
Well, I don't want, we've spent a long time on this, but that's why I'm curious as to why we spend so much time on this, when I know that the residents in Carmel, and most of the water districts, want their water repaired, and, the distribution systems replaced. I think that's the only question I had on that. So I'm just curious that nothing's really changed in the last 2 years in the way we've, done RFPs, and to bring it up now, and to somehow insinuate we've done things with Mr. Fulchetti before, and the contracts have been signed, and I'm really just wondering as to why this is being brought up now. and never has before. We've done other things without RFPs. I mean, we have almost a $200,000 video system. I know that I've missed a couple of meetings, I am sorry, but when I come planning meetings, they're mute, there's no sound. The mics don't pick up what everybody says. Was there an RFP on that? Yeah? And how many bids came in on that?
Not too many. Unfortunately, it seems like the most recent, I'd say probably the past 2 to 3 years, we seem to have a lot of difficulty getting respondents on a lot of bids, whether it be things for Parks and Rec, things for construction projects, things for
Right.
engineering.
So on the whole new audio video system, how many bids did we have? How many RFPs came in?
I think there was only two.
I'm sorry.
Two.
Two?
And we awarded it to the lowest bidder?
We awarded
In
it
that
to
instance?
they actually wrote the RFP for the town and then bid on it and were awarded the
They
project.
did the spec?
Right.
And they were awarded the job?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't hear anybody come up and complain about that, so I'm just curious as to why we're doing it now. Any answers?
I don't have an answer for that, but I will at least give a point of clarification.
Right.
A lot of the issues that we had with the microphones were unfortunately between the cable providers.
Right.
And there was a lot of back and forth between.
No, I understand. And that should have been hammered out prior?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Again, we're going back to signing contracts and having these contractors, we're paying them, and then somehow in the end, we're stuck with the holding the bag, and we don't have the outlet, the output for the video, and then we don't have the resolution on the water source for Airport Park, and I've heard that time and time again. And those are instances that are costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars as well. So let's consider that as well. Thank you on that. The other question I had was, I wasn't here last week, and you passed the resolution on a $120,000 budget modification. And what is that for?
Resolution 19,
Number 4, resolution number 4. Anybody?
last week.
Yeah, last
Well,
week.
I wasn't here last week, so.
It was for transfer, it was a budget transfer, to transfer funds into a special counsel line.
Right.
For legal counsel for,
To pay
For
for
the
resolution number
represent-
19 for tonight.
it's for resolution number 19. It was to transfer funds to cover invoices for the Cozen O'Connor law firm.
Okay.
And that $120,000, the answer that Mr. Lupinacci read to you could have been very easily found out for nothing if one of these three gentlemen asked my partner. That's all I have to say about that.
And you couldn't answer it?
Actually,
Nobody ever asked him a question.
Actually, it would have been better if you just converted back to your
No,
25-year-old working septic system.
That's exactly, I get that permission from DEP and DEC is what will happen. And then we will see each other again in the near future.
Okay. That's just an interesting comment to say that they could have gotten answers and saved, I mean, are you saying that they could have gotten answers and saved $120,000? You're not saying that. Is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry, were you speaking to me?
Yeah, I'm speaking to
I
you,
didn't-
Mike.
I didn't hear. I'm sorry, what am I hearing?
You just said something that the 120 could have been saved by asking your partner for the answers. Is that what you just said?
Excuse me?
I'm trying to understand what you just said.
Read it. Read the 231 pages, the world record of resolutions.
Oh, I don't have time to read it. Ken didn't have time to read it. I got home later than
Well,
you, and
really
I have a
to-
full-time
you have
job
to read
outside
it.
of here.
You have to read it because it includes everything, all Mr. Wilson's columns, everything. It's a Christmas gift to me just before Christmas, courtesy of the taxpayers' money. And the truth
Any
always comes
comments
out.
by anybody else on that
The truth
statement?
always comes out. 2020, it will come out.
No
Yeah,
comments?
I mean, if you have specific questions, because I don't know what's in litigation and what's not, you could,
Okay,
the
I mean, you just-
attorneys are
That's
here.
all I'm gonna say about it.
The attorneys are here. I can tell you this, the town of Carmel was not in compliant. We had
Right.
to get compliant.
Right.
We tried to. It didn't happen. This is where we are today. We hired an outside law firm.
For an investigator, right,
It's
absolutely, I understand that.
$120,000.
With no RFP.
They're here. If
And that
anybody
wasn't the
had
first time there was no
questions-
RFPs, right, Mike? I mean, we've done that many, many times before.
Right.
Never done
Right,
an RFP
right,
for legal
absolutely.
services.
Haven't gotten RFPs,
Bill,
haven't
we
gotten
never
bids,
for
and
legal
yet here we are
firm in
spending
Madison
an
Avenue.
hour on a certain topic that's just confusing to me as to why we would be so concerned about the RFP and the bids that came in this time, and in the last several years, we're not. So
Yes.
All right, well, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there
Thank you, Gene.
anyone else here for agenda items at this time that we covered? The 19 agenda items, if you'd like to come up and have a question for that, come on up. If not, we're going to go on to new business. This is the open forum portion of the meeting where you can address the town board for any town-related business or matters that you may have. You must be a resident, taxpayer, or business owner to address the board during the open forum portion of the meeting. Is there anyone?
John Butler again. So, my question is about the use of town facilities. And specifically, and it may be applicable in many cases, I don't know. The only one I happen to know is the Falchetti occupying or using workspace in town hall. So my first question is whether or not the agreement with them requires the town to provide them workspace in town hall.
The contract basically says that he runs the engineering department. That was one of the problems I had about it, that outside consultant was giving orders to the engineer. It says a lot of different things.
John, you can read the contract and make your own assumptions. I don't see it that way. We have a very capable engineer here
Okay.
that's been on the town. He's doing a wonderful job, you know, so.
I'm actually,
it's-
my question really isn't that. My question is facility-based. Okay, it's a simple question as to whether or not we're under an obligation to provide workspace in town hall to an outside contractor.
The answer is no.
Just with
Okay.
respect to the engineering contract,
Yes.
only because I worked on that, and I can clarify that. There
Sure.
are a number of different tasks that he has pursuant to that, which require him to physically be here for a period of time, however long that may be. So to the extent that he needs to fulfill the contractual obligations that he has to the town, yes, he physically has to be here.
So therefore, he would obviously only be, and again, this could apply to any outside contract. I don't know if there are any other cases of this. So he would have to be engaged only in work activities associated with his contract when he's physically sitting or present in town hall.
I would believe so.
Okay. You don't know the answer to the question, but is there any way for us to confirm that to be the case, or has it been the case?
Yeah, I think the town board would have to ask.
Mr. Butler, we don't know if the planner, town planner, who is an outside consultant, who comes and sits sometimes at this table, sits in the planning, sits in the conference room to do his work and do
Goes
his review.
upstairs into the
Goes into the
planning office.
engineering. We don't know if, when Joe Charbonneau comes to do legal matters, when Greg Falchetti comes and sits in Ken's office weekly, more than once or twice a week, goes into the Richard Othmer room. Data Sullivan, the IT people, when they come and they do work, but then they sit down on their computer in a conference room. We've had the reassessment people come, and they occupied rooms back there, and actually they created like a phone bank. So, you know, I'm trying to go through all of the vendors. You keep bringing up Richard J. Falchetti, or John Falchetti, but you do caveat, say, other vendors. So I'm naming a few.
Okay.
That there's, you know, if they come in now, does someone watch over their shoulders that if they're sitting in the Mr. Othmer conference room, if they're doing solely town work? I don't think anybody, I mean, Kenny, have you ever sat and looked over any consultant's shoulder? So, I mean, I'm trying to understand the question you have.
Well, here's the question. First of all, it's good to know.
Could-
So if
could
I
we-
showed up at the conference room tomorrow and just put my laptop down, I'm cool to go, I'm good to go, I'm no
Well,
problem?
you're not a contractor, but I'm
Okay.
sure if you
But you're
call
not a
Annie.
contractor.
but
I'm a
I'm-
taxpayer.
Right,
That
but I'm
should
sure
allow
if you
me
called
the same
Annie-
rights as a contractor to come in and work on their own work without the town. I mean, it's like WeWorks, except the
Well, there
taxpayers
is a
are paying.
schedule.
You can definitely put in a request, just
You
like the
can put in a
library.
request.
Schedule.
So here's
with
the,
Annie.
I don't know the law and I don't know engineering, but I do know insurance. So here's really the other part of this question. It's a two-part aspect to it. So let's just presume that Mr. Falchetti spends a lot of time in a workspace in this building. an inordinate amount of time, just because he's working on his contract. So let's, from an insurance point of view, okay? Now my question becomes, if something happens, it doesn't matter what it is, in association with the occupancy of that town workspace by an outside contractor, it could be anything. I'm very certain that the town's insurance would respond to the town and protect the town's interests. My question comes is, what is Mr. Falchetti's or the firm's insurance policy? How is that addressing that exposure, number one? And
All
that's
of the vendors or just his?
no, his, because he's the only one in this unique, is his name on a door up there?
Wait a minute, I just mentioned Greg Falchetti comes in as an attorney. Mr. Charbonneau comes in as an attorney.
Listen,
To me,
I
it's
just
an
said Mr.
example.
listen,
Cleary
it's apples
comes
and
in.
oranges. I know where you're going. So I'm
No,
asking
I know
a
where
question.
you're going. Why don't you just come out and tell the truth? You don't like him and you're looking for
I don't
areas.
even know him.
Then why are we up here? And we'll-
I'm
you know what-
asking,
you know what
I
we'll
am
do?
now
We'll
asking
we'll
questions.
we'll ask an-
I am
we'll ask
asking
the
questions
insurance-
in
we'll ask our
association
insurance
with
agency-
uninsured
we will
exposures
ask-
to the town of
We will ask our
Carmel.
insurance agency if there's any exposure.
It's not our insurance, it's his.
And it's Mr. Cleary's, it's Mr. Charbonneau's,
It's
it's Greg
his.
Falchetti's.
And
it's
that's,
David
and the second,
Sullivan's.
and the second and final insurance question I
Let's say
have
Mr.
is,
Charbonneau. Oh, you did? I didn't say Joe, I said Mr.
and the second one and final one, and I'm done, is this incredibly unique situation in my mind, that he's being paid as an individual for his services and not the firm being paid. How does that impact his professional liability insurance? Because guess what, folks? It's a very interesting situation that if something from a professional liability exposure occurs, as to how his insurance company would respond to a situation where his firm is not receiving any payment for services, he as an individual is. And people will say, well, he's automatically covered. That may not be the case. So my recommendation, a strong one, is that that whole insurance program be submitted and reviewed in detail. Because I'm looking at an exposure to the town that may not be insured. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
P.S., I really resent the comment of you saying that I don't like someone.
Well, you
Where
kept
did you
talking about
come
one
up
person.
with that?
Where do you come up with your stuff? Do you want to do this? Because I got all night. I could do this.
You know, I've been wondering for years. I really hope, and I think anger management treatment is something that you should really research.
Oh, I think you need
Because I
big
think you
time.
have a
John,
problem.
I think, listen, run again so you know what happens on this board.
John,
He started it.
All right, I know,
He put
enough.
words in
No, I
my
didn't
mouth.
start it.
I know.
I tried to help you by illustrating different
All right.
vendors, and you couldn't get it through
All
your
right.
head.
right.
I know, goodbye.
is,
Yeah, I like how you come up for many years or many months, you gotta fix this water system, you gotta fix this water system. Now it's like, whoa, going too fast. Which side are we gonna talk out of? Just to talk and just to complain about a vendor or not?
okay, is there anyone else for open, is there anyone else for open
Yes, it
forum,
is.
new business portion of the meeting? Is there anyone else?
friend.
Going once, going twice? There is no one else. Okay. As I said earlier, this is the final meeting of this year. We will not be meeting again publicly until January 2nd, which is the organizational meeting. I encourage people to attend that. We'll have some swearing-in ceremonies at that meeting. It's a good meeting to attend. You will know all about the business of the town through the organizational resolutions at that meeting. If there's the town board, other than saying Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Healthy New Year to everyone in this room, if there's nothing else that we're going to say tonight, then that's the last words for me tonight. God bless, be well. I know I can't say that anymore, but
Yes, you can.
God bless.
Yes, you
God
can.
bless and be well. Good night,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas, Happy Hanukkah.
Yes.
Happy New Year.
Good night.
Motion to close?
Motion to
Everybody-
adjourn.
Oh, I need a motion to adjourn. All right, so.